Welcome to Legendary Tales, everybody. My camera apparently is facing very, very low. Okay, there we go. That's a little bit better. I hope everyone's having a great day. Well, where were we? Does anyone have a recap for last week, or would you like me to do it?
You got it.
Okay, so last week, our adventurers met up with each other. They met Yvonne. They completely agreed to take him on an adventure, and they moved all the way up to Chelfeld. They saw a really interesting thing where a bunch of owls were crowding around an owl bear that was sleeping in the middle of the snow. They made their way up all the way from Turfor to Chelfeld, and that was after meeting the Jarl what's her name? Jarl Hellman. Jarl Hellman, and that was after everything they did. They moved very quickly up to Chelfeld, and they met Captain Saltai, and they had just boarded the ship to go on their way to Vernegard. And that is where we're starting off. So, all of you are not necessarily standing around, but you are around a boat, and there is a large amount of there's like a handful of other boats, but this boat is very unique. And before you had gotten onto the boat, the Captain Saltai had met with you guys. By the way, I actually have a representation for Captain Saltai now. Let me go ahead and zoom in so that you can see him. Where are you, Captain? There he is. Captain Saltai approaches you, and he said he approached Rep specifically to attempt to fix an engineering issue underneath the ship. One question before we head into this specific aspect of it. There is a question that I have for Evie, Vidar, and Loershik. What are you doing on this ship? The ship is a mid-sized ship, crew of about 25-ish people. On top of that, it houses anywhere between, from your count on one side, it's like 12 or 13 guns on the side. And then on top of that, there are these very large contraptions you've never seen before. Yeah.
How do you fit 25 people on a brig? I can only fit 3.
That's because ships in Sea of Thieves are much smaller than they are in real life.
Sea of Thieves is a highly accurate game. I am sitting in the captain's quarters.
You're going straight into Saltai's.
Damn straight.
Okay.
I'm just gonna walk right on in there.
You attempt to walk into Saltai's quarters, and he looks at you. It looks at you with the thing, and then the largest orc you have ever seen stands in your way. This man.
How large is the largest orc?
Around 8 feet tall. He probably weighs about 650 pounds.
He's overweight. He should probably go on a diet. I look up at the orc and I say, it looks like you need to go on a diet, buddy.
Oh, you think so? By the way, I'm first mate Tooth Grinder. There's nobody.
Nice,
nobody goes into Captain Saltai's room. So, I require you to back up and head to a different part of the ship before I forcefully remove you.
I step back about 2 feet and I sit right there. I just sit on the deck.
He pats you on the top of the head and says,
"Right, I'll see you in a bit."
And he just sort of stomps past you. Evie, what are you doing?
When I got on the ship, I kind of just made a quick kind of rounds of the main deck, and then just lean against the side of the boat and watch the hilarity of Loershik trying to weasel his way into something again.
Oh, it's hilarious. He fails almost immediately because of the most monstrous creature. And Evie, you've been around. You've seen orcs don't look like this on this world.
Yeah, scary looking.
in this on this world, there are no orcs that look like this. Even full-blooded orcs from this plane are usually dark brown, dark green. Some of them are lighter green. Some of them are even dark blue. But this guy is like pale tan. He's got full tattoos all around his thing, and he's about 1.5 feet taller and probably weighs about 200 pounds more than any orc that you've ever seen before. Vidar, what are you doing?
I am wandering around the boat trying to make sure that in case a kraken shows up or otherwise pirates, that what are you laughing about? There's krakens in the bay that we're going to. There's 2 krakens in the bay. I'm trying to make sure that if a fight breaks out, that I'm able to use the boat strategically and not die in the process.
Sure. So you're just doing rounds to do security checks and things like that.
Figure out where places to hide are, etc.
Yvonne sort of wanders around for a bit, looking around, and he walks up to you, Evie, and he says, "I don't know about you, but I have never seen a ship like this or the crew. They're very strange looking."
This is
your companion, the emissary.
okay. So he wasn't aware of the crew that we were taking the ship with, I guess.
He was aware of them. They were commissioned by not the king, but the guy above the like one of the heads of state, essentially.
Okay.
And a lot of this is magically enchanted, but there's no temper. None of it. There's no temper at all on this ship.
Interesting. Do you have any idea what else it could be causing the magic on the ship?
The only thing I can think of is they're not from our world. That's all. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe we want to keep a little bit of an eye on them.
True. And all of the species and races that exist on here are just a little bit different than ours. The high elves are very tall and very skinny, and they're all blonde. I don't understand why. But the humans, I don't know. They look fairly similar. They're just not as angular as we are. I don't know. I'm just a little confused. But they don't want to say anything, obviously. But it's okay.
Yeah, we'll keep it between us for now. But if you notice anything strange, definitely let me know.
As you are technician, you and Saltai head underneath. You basically go down into the lower decks. And the second that you come down, you notice that underneath the stairs, like the stairs directly coming down to the very bottom of the ship, there is a bright blue glow coming from underneath the ship.
Okay. Sorry. I would like to try to figure out what that is. Sorry, is it I imagine that might be familiar to me, or it would be
Never. You've never.
completely alien. Okay.
It's as alien as heck.
Okay. So I'm going to sorry, Rap is going to turn to Captain Saltai. I do not recognize this blue glow. If I'm to assist you in your mechanical issue, I should know more about how the ship runs.
As your question is answered as soon as you get to the bottom of the ship, there is a large glass sphere with 2 glowing golden rings, or brass. It appears to be either gold or brass, spinning around rapidly around a caged air elemental.
Okay. Gotcha.
And he looks at you and he says, "Well, I don't understand why, but as soon as we made
planefall on your plane, all of our magical enchantments stopped working. All of them. We were instructed by one of the locals to procure some form of material called temper. So we did. And he hands you an ingot of temper. Like a 15-pound ingot of temper. And he said, if you can make this work, I will give you money. I will give you cash to make it work.
Out of curiosity, how much of this temper do you have?
Just that. It was very expensive.
I am curious where you found this. This is very rare and very expensive.
Oh, the king of some country to the northeast. Bought it directly from him.
I see. Very well. I will look into your problem.
And you're looking around, and a lot of the runes you can see are very similar. Like the runic enchantments on this are similar to your guys' runic magic, where it's carved and then you inlay the temper and stuff like that. So your ability to make this tempered is not restricted. The engravings are there, the markings are there. All you have to do is form the temper to fit into the carvings, and it should just work. Because the enchantments are there, but this world actively suppresses magic. And this is a verification of your theory that there is something that just stops magic from working. And the temper is the channeling of that, because there's magic in everything that you've seen on this boat. But for this specific thing, and as you're like looking at it, the air elemental's not happy to be there. You can tell. And
to the best of my ability to tell right now, would fixing the runes on this allow put the captain in a position to free the air elemental?
No. What it's going to do, from make an Arcana check at advantage for me, please.
Sure.
Damn. This is a way that they channel the air elemental's energy into the sails, because there's a direct enchanted link between the sails and this air elemental that pushes the boat. So even if it's bad weather, they can still move in a specific direction. They don't need wind at all. So if it's an extremely calm day for some reason, they can keep moving. It's just an alternate form of propulsion where they don't require additional input because of this air elemental being caged.
I see. Okay, but still not happy.
No.
All right. Yeah, RepRap is going to start tempering and repairing the runes, attempting to conserve as much of that ingot as possible.
Yes, absolutely. And the problem that you're discovering as you're looking around and inspecting everything before you get to work is that every part of the ship has magic. Like there's barely any part of it that doesn't have some sort of magic attached to it. He only asked you to temper the globe around the elemental specifically, but if you want the propulsion system to work, you're probably going to have to temper the sails as well, or at least the mast that the sails are on, to make sure that magic can transfer from one tempered object to another tempered object, that kind of thing. But at most, it should take 3/4. If you wanted the whole ship tempered, it would take 2 or 3 ingots. But at most, at least that ingot would be 3/4 taken, but then you'd have like a 2 pounds of it left, which is still an immense amount of temper to begin with. So,
okay. Sorry, is Saltai still there, or did he?
Saltai is just hanging out. He's doing He's just, people are asking him questions. He's like talking to people, that kind of stuff. He's not particularly engaged at the moment.
Gotcha. All right, so RepRap is going to turn to him and sort of relay the exact same information and say, I can repair these systems and the interlinking systems to get you back into working propulsion. all of the systems on the boat could be repaired with 2 or 3 ingots. By my estimate, there would be a few pounds of temper left over. If I am able to do those repairs, may I keep the remaining whatever remains of the ingot?
Oh, absolutely. It was invested for a reason. And that being said, just as long as you get it done, because the basic things on the ship that I installed, the augments, are just not working. I didn't know why. We figured it out, and it would be much appreciated. And yes, the elemental is upset right now purely because it can't do its job. It wouldn't be there if it wasn't voluntary. I'm just letting you know. If any of you speak primordial, you're more than welcome to speak to it, and it will regale you of the story in which I offered service and things like it. It was a very interesting story. I mean, that was after the first time I died.
I completely understand. I was built for purpose, and without purpose, my existence is meaningless. I assume the air elemental feels the same.
Aye, that is true.
I will begin immediately, and then Reprap's just gonna start doing his thing, melting temper, forging it in, shaping, all that good stuff.
Yep. And it's a very interesting process that I don't think anyone else has ever witnessed, is like the whole smelting and other things that temper has to do with, because it's all magically involved. You can't do it without magic. And you have a special set of tools that involve smithing and things like that. Probably, I think they're integrated into you, right? Is what we decided, that your smithing tools. Yeah. As soon as you get on, they sort of ring the bell at the top of the ship, and you guys get underway. Are any of your characters not sea people? Are any of you specifically averse to being on the ocean? Just for role-playing purposes. Not for mechanical purposes, for role-playing purposes.
I don't think it would make sense for me. I'm good with natural things.
Vidar's a robot, so I can imagine that he doesn't really care either way. He just doesn't want to fall off because of the sheer weight of his character. Loershik, how do you feel about being on the ocean?
On the ocean? I'd prefer to be on land, but I'm not puking over the edge of the boat. Just catching my balance every now and then.
Okay. As soon as you guys get underway, the sails drop. Is anyone going to explore the bottom of the ship where Rep went?
I wouldn't mind going down and check it out.
Would it have made sense for me to check that out when I was looking for places to hide earlier? Would I have stumbled upon it at all?
Probably not until they started talking about it. The top of the ship is very vast, and it's not until like the 3rd level down or 4th level down. Actually, that's true. At this point, Captain Doc is not a captain yet, and he's actually on this boat. Okay. So, it's another character in another campaign that in the timeline of my overall thing, he is... So, one of the most interesting characters that you guys see while you're exploring the ship and doing your thing is an otter, a human-sized otter, walks up to you guys. And he has a little pouch, like he's wearing a full set of gear. He has rapier, and then he has a chest, like a mimic. It doesn't appear to be angry, but it's got a bunch of little legs on the bottom. They're walking around with him. And he walks up to you and he says, "Oh, would you like a satsuma?" And he pulls out from his like little pouch, like your skull-sized pouch on your side, Loershik. On that size of a pouch, he pulls out a bunch of very strange-looking mandarin oranges.
Those look fancy. What are those?
They're called satsumas. You want one?
Yeah, of course I'll try it.
Right. You gotta keep the scurvy away. Right.
Would you like one, tall lady?
I'll just kind of give him a hesitant nod and put my hand up for him to throw it to me.
He throws one really gracefully to you. What about you, glowing eye boy?
Sure.
He hands you a Satsuma. He says, well, I'll be around if you need anything. And he sort of walks down. And he's absolutely delightful. At this point, I think he just goes by Doc. It's actually a character in another campaign. That his storyline was that he's with Captain Saltai up until he goes to the other world. Yeah, so technically he would exist in this specific area.
Spoilers.
I take my Satsuma and I place it in my skull bag.
He's just here. So
What the fuck? What are you doing? What are you doing?
I smack my head.
There's no need to be like that. Why are you doing that to me, Daddy?
I just shake my head and brush it off.
okay, so you guys are on your way. High or low? We'll give the chat a minute to catch up to.
Hi.
You want to do high? Go ahead and roll a D100 for me, please.
If you're gonna say hi, you have to roll.
Yep.
I know.
Lower shit can't roll if anybody says hi.
Oh.
Very nice.
Okay. You guys start to make your way. About halfway through your process, technician, of rechanneling all of everything, retempering it, or tempering it for the first time, you keep moving, and you hear a very odd noise, like a. Everyone, make a perception check, please. Because you hear this way before you see it. Lower Shik starting off strong.
Back.
There must be charred meats somewhere on the boat that have obviously obstructed his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Technician and Evie. Even while you're in the bottom of the ship, you can hear the loudest sound of seagulls you have ever heard in your life. And Evie, it is deafening. And that's
we left the dock yet?
Yes, you guys are a couple miles off at this point.
Okay.
And you look around, you don't see anything, and then the ship goes dark. You look up, and the sun has been covered by a flock of seagulls.
Do I have any knowledge of like how the seagulls normally act or why they would be doing this?
Go and make a nature check. You have no idea.
Okay, well, my instincts kind of kick in, and I don't go into like battle mode, but I start trying to kind of run around the deck or go back upstairs and see what's going on, see where Lorishik and the other two, I mix them up.
Yeah,
And
where
I
are
start trying to use their name.
where-
Vidar and Technician, try to rally everyone and see if we can just come together to I don't want to lose them at this point. There's like strange people on the ship. Something weird is happening. We probably work better when we're together, so gonna find them.
Where are you, Vidar, at this point? What are you doing?
I think by this point I would have been back up on deck, just waiting for something to happen like this.
As soon as Evie starts running around, you look like in the sky goes dark. You assumed it was a cloud, but you look up, and it's like a giant murmuration of seagulls. Seagulls don't generally do that, by the way. So you're very confused. Loershik, what are you doing during this?
I'm afraid to say. because I'm just going to roll something bad and then trip over myself and fall off the boat.
I mean, with that
What am I doing as the sun's blacking out?
Yes.
And, how dark is the ship now? Like, are we talking moonlight levels of light, or the blue glow affecting our ability to see at all? Are we still on the top deck? Like, how far in front of me can I see?
Oh, you can see just fine. It's more like if a really dense cloud or a rain cloud moved over. It's still light, but it's just a little bit darker.
I just yell, what the fuck is that?
Aye. That would be our friend. Well, one of my friends from a long time ago.
Are we all kind of nearby at the moment?
I would assume that everyone but Technician. Technician's hard at work. Technician does one thing well. That's what he's doing.
Yep. I'm focused.
He's focused. The three of you upstairs, though, just are like, what?
Aye. One of my friends from a long time ago. He used to call him the Seagull Master. I believe
One
it's...
of your
I assume by friend we mean non-hostile. Are we in danger?
No, he's actually my friend, yes. No, if you look closely. Look up there. Just look at it.
And as you look closer, it's a dude hanging from a flock of seagulls that are all tied to a giant anchor. He's literally riding an anchor tied to thousands of seagulls.
This is his preferred mode of transport. I'm kind of directing this at
Saltai.
Saltai.
Aye, it is. He's a very curious man. You should see the process of capturing seagulls. It's quite entertaining.
Okay, well, he damn near gave us all a heart attack. Is he gonna come down, or is he just gonna stay up there blocking the sun this whole journey?
Oh, no, he's leaving soon. Just wait for it.
Kind of puts me at ease, but still watching this like very strange occurrence happening.
I take the Satsuma out of the pouch. I reach in there, and I feel like a little bit of a tickle, and I grab the Satsuma and just throw it up at the guy hanging by the anchor.
As you do that,
Do I need to make an athletics check to see if I actually
No.
Just
no, you throw it up there. As you do that, you realize that he's falling rapidly. And it's a gnome. And he's on an anchor. He's just grabbing it. And all of the seagulls are facing downward with not flapping their wings. So they're just going. And as he comes down, he grabs the Satsuma out of the air, salutes you, like he grabs it with his left hand, he salutes you with his right hand, and splashes directly into the ocean. All the birds follow him.
So he's a bit of a theatrics man then?
Aye, his name is Gan, and we refer to him specifically as the Seagull Master.
And keep in mind that there is never a splash. Like, the only things that splash are the seagulls.
So is he joining us?
No, he just was here.
Okay.
And the rest of your journey happens uneventfully.
At some point in the middle of fixing runes, probably after the sound of seagulls has subsided, Rep is just going to kind of turn to anybody in the room and just be like, "It sounded like there was a flock of seagulls tied to an anchor just now."
Trust me, you didn't miss much.
I take my Satsuma that was provided to me and hand it to Low Airshake.
I happily grab it and place it in my pouch.
And with that, we're going to transition to Verdengard. Give it a second to load. Here we are. So you guys arrive, and there's a small island to the southwest of Verdengard and a long mountain chain that goes all the way up a peninsula. And then there's a large bay in the middle. And in between these two areas, there is a large gap. And in that gap, and above that gap, in the ocean itself here is filled with turmoil, right? And at this point, Technician, it takes you about 2 or 3 days to traverse this whole area. Realistically, it could take up to a week, but once Technician gets the elemental going, they just can go all night. They could go in a direction, it just works, and it cuts the drive time by a lot. You reach the bay, and immediately the signs of a kraken existing nearby are immediate. For example, there are 2 storm clouds, like tornado, monsoon clouds, just hovering over the bay. They just exist. One of them is up to the northwest, so I'll point it to you with my mouse. It's right here. One of them is up here, and the other one is down here to the southeast. And the water is constantly in turmoil. That's just a natural state of being, and every once in a while a lightning bolt hits the water. And those are the generic signs that a kraken exists nearby. There's a bunch of other stuff as well. The horrid stench of death accompanies it as well, in addition to a bunch of other issues that can be potential, but that's only within like a couple miles, as opposed to anything else happening. Let me see if there's an actual range. I think it's 3 or 4 miles that stuff becomes issues. Layer actions. The water around the Kraken's lair is a cloud of inky poison. That kind of thing. Yeah. So, and in this case, you're not really sure. The likelihood that you guys have heard of a Kraken is very high to begin with, but ever seeing one or ever seeing where one could be is basically 0 chance. But there are actually 2. They're not quite that adorable, but the fact that there are 2 here is very upsetting, and the fact that nobody really cares. You guys make your way through the passage, and surprisingly, on these like islands where there's like frigid waters and there's actually snow on the ground on most of the island and the peninsula, you're looking and there's a large colony of sirens, and they're not called Naga. They're called they are merfolk. There are many merfolk. There's like huge colonies of merfolk.
Is this the direction that we're currently going and have to go up?
You have to go to Akkut, which is directly north of you guys through the channel.
So we have to go to Akkut, and there's absolutely at least 2 Krakens and mer people who are questionably hostile. Right?
Yeah. They don't appear to be hostile. They just watch your ship pass without any real issues. And you guys make your way up here uneventfully.
Krakens were like, not today.
If they were today, it would be a lot more tumultuous than it would be normally.
You've said uneventfully twice now today.
Uh-huh.
And my personal human anxiety is through the roof now.
Yeah.
We can only have so many uneventfulies until all the events converge.
Yeah.
And then we're...
You can ask anyone in chat. That's how it goes. It's all uneventful until it's not.
It'll be 3 krakens and a minotaur riding a dragon.
Don't
Something
worry.
like
There's only two live episodes of Soulforged. This is our series conclusion.
We're ending episode 2. You guys arrive at Akut. Akut is one of the largest animal trade ports in the world. You arrive here, and it is a huge dock. The actual harbor itself spans around 4 miles, and there are hundreds of ships. The vast majority of them being unarmed. A lot of them are cargo ships, and then there's a large amount of straight up ships that have metal bodies. Like their metal, their hulls are metal. There's a large amount of them. There's about 15 or 20 of them, and they appear to be anywhere between 300 to 500 feet long. They are absolute marvels of engineering at this point, and there are about 15 to 20 of them. Could be more, but the fact that it's so huge. You arrive, and directly waiting in front of you, as soon as you get off the ship, Captain Saltai and First Mate Toof Grinda bid you farewell. Captain Saltai makes sure that you have your 2 pounds of temper in your pocket, technician.
Okay.
And they sort of get back on the ship. They start to load stuff onto it, and before you know it, the ship is gone. They've returned back south. They immediately left. I forgot to put Yvonne on. Yvonne leads you down this boardwalk all the way to the end, where there is a large group of people gathered around another entourage that has just arrived via carriage. Directly stepping out of the carriage is an extremely beautiful woman. She looks like this, actually. She has brown skin, brown hair, brown eyes, and she's wearing a very long, flowing white dress. She has a large necklace on that appears to be made of silver and is tempered. At her side, there is a small dagger, and she has on her back a large backpack that has some sort of fur on it, as well as she's wearing a large jacket that appears to be made of leather. With her, there is a dwarven man with tattoos on his face and a wood elf. Directly accompanying her, along with what appears to be a woman with a full covered plate helmet with a full plate armor set, and there are nothing but slits in her helmet, and she has just an absolutely enormous amount of religious iconography. If you'd like to make a religion check to see what religion she follows, you're more than welcome to do so. She appears to be a priestess of some sort. Is the first thing you notice about her.
I'll do the religion check.
Oh my god. So she is a priestess of Plague Lord Uruk,
Okay.
who is the god of life and one of the gods of life and death.
You are UK?
Say again?
You are UK. Uruk. You are UK.
Oorak. Uruk.
Got it.
And as you're looking at her, you notice that the armor is rusted shut in some cases. Some of it appears to be polished, but outside of that, you can't really tell. The parts that are polished, specifically like the eye holes and like the covering, the sort of pyramidian faceplate that is covering her face, there are large flies that are flying in and out of these holes. And when I say large flies, they're about the size of a silver dollar.
Can I do an Arcana check to see if she's magical?
No, there's no doubt that her natural state of being is a natural state of either disease or plague. There's something about her that just... She's to the point where she's so magical that she doesn't need to be tempered.
Got it. So this is the Gang Beats Final Fantasy. Understood.
Yeah. Yeah, and there are these huge flies that are flying in and out of the eye holes of her helmet. And she carries around a pair of sickles that are both tempered. And yeah, that's like her thing. And she's full plate mail. It appears to be rusted in some areas and polished in others. And then in and out of her eye, her face covering, there are huge flies coming in and out. And everyone is just very casual about her existence.
Everyone around, like, did you say that like a group had gathered to look at them?
Yes.
arriving?
They appear to be welcoming her and her entourage, the very beautiful woman and her entourage.
When you said that the woman had a tempered necklace, is temper ever used decoratively, or would that imply that it's magical in some way?
It implies that it's magical in some way. It implies that if something has temper on it, it's never just aesthetic, ever.
I'll ask Yvonne if he knows who these people are, because we're still like on our way to get, what was it, arms? What was he like? We were delivering him.
Yvonne looks at you and he says, "Well, these are the people we are meeting. We are meeting with. By the way, you may want to bow when we get close, for that is Queen Inira. Queen Inira Brightwall. She is the queen of the Verdengard, and she is the matriarch. They do not follow the patriarch rules here. She is actually the ruler. So when we get close, we'll all bow together and recognize her authority. And that is that. By the way, if you want to know who the rest of them are, and you guys are sort of casually walking toward them, the large crowd keeps you sheltered from their gaze at the moment. You can definitely tell who they are because they're on like a raised stand where they got off the coach, because the coach here basically went up to a sort of platform, and then they unloaded from the raised platform, and they all got off of the carriage. The Plague Lord Priestess jumped off first and then opened the door for the rest of them. Yvonne looks at you and says, "Well, accompanying the queen is one Commander Gunnet Mattis. He is the Lord Commander of all of the military forces, and well as one of the personal bodyguards of Anira. And the lovely Sama Achlund, she is the Ranger General. So they have a special corps of essentially stalkers that exists. She's a sort of spy master and battle master at the same time. She's the wood elf lady covered in all the natural foliage. I believe she is kin to you, Evie. She's not wood elf. Most people believe she's wood elf. She's actually an Eladrin as well. But then the very scary looking lady is Priestess Hilda Moonfell. She's the head lead cleric and also the voice of Plague Lord Urak. And the word voice is over your guys' upbringing in this world. There are loads of gods. There are currently 13 recognized gods in 2 pantheons. You all know that. That's standard information. And each of them has a chosen person that they have that is sort of their most powerful character or their most powerful worshiper. And that person is referred to as the voice. So if someone is called the voice of something, that means that they are the head of the church. They are the head of their like warriors, their head of their paladins, the head of the clerics, the head of the druids if they have druids. The voice is the absolute end-all, be-all of the powerful characters in that sort of hierarchy. And this woman is the voice of Plague Lord Urak. And she is Hilda Moonfell. And he says, as soon as we get in, we bow. If you want a curtsy or half bow, you don't have to get on the ground. It's not like that here. But just be aware that this is probably the most powerful person in this country. She's come to meet me specifically because we known each other for a very long time.
How long is a very long time?
35 years. We grew up together.
Has she always been queen?
No, actually, recently she became queen. 16 years ago is when she became queen. They've been married for. Oh no, they got married 11 years ago. He was queen for that. He was king at that point for 4 years or 5 years. Oh, King Aldan Brightwall is his name. He's the king. He is her spouse.
So is she the head of government here, or is
she is? She has established herself that way because Aldan is more militaristic, and Verdengard does not feel the same. So the people banded around the queen more than the king, and that has created this matriarchal political existence for the Verdengard. Everyone is happy. They have more resources than any other empire in the world. Their engineers are the best in the world. I mean, look at the ships they've designed. They can literally cut off this bay from the rest of the world with those ships. That is their purpose. They're called the blockade. So they can link them together, and they just create this giant floating wall that you cannot pass.
Why the big entourage for this meetup?
That is just how she happens. That's, for lack of a better term, that's how she rolls. This is her basic minimum setup. In some cases, depending on who she's only meeting me. If she's meeting the young King Shiram, she'd have a full battalion with her, probably a company of rangers, and then who knows, a handful of aides from the Voice as well.
And I forget if I know this already or not, but what exactly are you picking up from her?
Well, we are going to negotiate a trade deal. I give her temper. She gives me weapons and armor. I don't actually have the temper. The young king has to release it, and then once it gets here, they send weapons back. It's at you know how it works. We're just negotiating for this deal so that my people can survive. That's all.
I nod my head in agreement, understanding what he's saying, and ask him, so are we just here to be your bodyguards?
That was the plan initially, yes. Absolutely.
Why would you need bodyguards from someone that you've known for this long?
Oh, I don't need bodyguards for this specific encounter. It's more of we need. I just need a crew with me in case shit hits the fan on my travels mainly, because I'm safe in town, but when we hit the road, there's no guarantee.
So now that we're here, she can provide you with travel companions, and we can go back home.
No, that's not part of the deal. Speaking of which, I believe I owe you 3 weeks. And he pulls out little bags of gold for each of you and hands you each of you 300 gold.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It was part of the deal.
I have no desire to change the deal. I see this as a contract, and a contract is purpose.
I go and start walking up to the crowd and kind of push my way through a couple layers of people so I can get a closer look.
Okay. As you push through the crowd, you notice that there's a handful of like smaller sort of aides that are unnamed because they're just regular people that are handing out sort of mementos and favors and things like that from the queen herself. Most of them come in the form of like a flower, but it's like a very strange looking flower. It's like a rose. If you put a lotus head on a rose thorn like stem, that's what it looks like. And the aides, the sort of smaller aides, are handing those to them, and the ranger general, you can tell, immediately notices you and leans over to the dwarf and says something, and they both look at you with straight faces. Is anyone else doing anything?
I followed not too far behind, but at a much slower pace. And I kind of lock eyes with the other Eladrin and just kind of soft nod to acknowledge each other.
I'm still walking with Yvonne.
Yes, I'm right behind Yvonne, kind of.
Yeah.
Okay. As soon as Yvonne breaks the crowd, breaks through, you look up, and the queen looks down and she says, "Oh, Yvonne, I'm so glad you are here." And she sort of jumps off the platform, and just embraces him immediately. Shortly after that, both the general, or the commander, and the ranger general drop down, and then the voice stands on the huge platform, and you don't realize how big the voice actually is. She looked big because of the plate mail earlier, but when you get closer to her, her sheer size and mass are way more than you expected.
Like 2 C's?
3 or 4, actually. But she's wearing a large, instead of it being like leg plates, she's wearing a large dress, like plate dress that goes all the way down. And her hand, if she wanted to, Loershik, she could squeeze your head in her, she could palm your face easily because of her sheer mass. And it's not like she's not built for it. She appears to be extremely muscular, considering just how much in weight of plate that she's carrying to begin with is quite large.
So at this point, are the 3 of us or 4 of us just kind of like hanging back in the circle with all the other people while Yvonne and the queen have this like conversation, or are we like invited with them and are part of the conversation? Like, is he gonna introduce us, or are we just are we watching?
They're hugging, and they like kiss each other's cheeks, and he turns around and says, "Oh, I would love to introduce to you the amazing entourage I have been assigned by the crag. They are quite fantastic so far. We have Loershik in the back." And he beckons it. He says to you, "Come, Loershik, come meet the queen."
I hesitantly fumble my way over next to Yvonne, and I bow with my arm behind my back, holding my robe in place.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, "It's a pleasure to meet you."
And she sort of nods and does like a very like shallow curtsy to you. And he says, "This is the intriguing technician R3P, R4P, also known as Rap Rap."
Very, very mechanical bow, like nearly 90 degrees. Hello, Your Grace.
It's a pleasure. This is the just stunning Evie Asger.
I do like a half bow, half curtsy, and kind of like I'm being polite and respectful, but I sense a little bit of just like, the god that they worship is death and scaries, so just like hesitant but respectfully
Do me a
greet them.
favor. Roll a religion check at advantage, please. Even with a 9, you understand that the voice is purely there for not to represent what they believe, but as a representative of the overall idea that power exists here. That's like she's just a flex, essentially. But her giant necklace that she's wearing, has the symbol of what do you worship? Pantheon, Evie, or is it someone specific?
It was someone specific. I thought it's not a woman one.
Oh,
I don't remember exactly.
Was it Bambora? I believe it was Bambora.
I don't remember the name. It was one you said that was like a fairly newer one for you.
Oh, was it Gleam? Lights Advent?
Yeah,
Hold on.
I don't remember.
Let me see if it's on your character sheet. Where are you? You have not put anything for Faith. I would assume that it's Gleam, Lights Advent, or someone else, and it's actually the same iconography as Gleam, Lights Advent for her big giant necklace that she has on.
Okay, so I'm not alarmed by them.
No, you are alarmed by the voice, but that's it. The rest of them do not appear to have the same religious affiliation that the queen herself does, or that the voice has.
Then I just bow and say it's an honor to meet you all.
And Vidar, you recognize that iconography on her necklace as that same person that can rescue souls from being soul stitched.
Is that the one that's on the priestess?
No, the queen.
Or the queens? Okay. I also do I get introduced at this point, or
He does. He looks at you, and he says, "I don't really know what to say about Vidar other than he is very quiet." Here he is.
And true to form, I nod, do a bow, a little bit less mechanical than a technician, but not much better. And mostly don't look around, but keep focusing on the necklace.
And you sort of make the connection that Gleam is now ascended to godhood. Because that is something you haven't seen in a very, very, very long time. So, that being said, Yvonne sort of bows to the queen. She says, "Stop it. You know you don't have to do that." He looks at her. He says, "Well, I do it out of respect, because I can still respect you as a human, and we can still be friends. I can respect your position as well."
That being said, is there a place that we should meet nearby? I'm not familiar with this area. She looks at him and she says, well, absolutely. I have reserved a tavern nearby, and we're going to meet. And whatever your companions need, we can provide, whether it's food, clothing, if they need anything extra here. It's not cold here. It never gets cold here, so they don't need those winter clothes for the time being. When you move on from here, probably, but for the time being, you're safe here. You don't have to worry about that. So let's go, shall we? And she looks up at the priestess, and the priestess nods slowly at her, and then jumps off, and you hear a very audible squishing noise. And a pustulant ooze begins to seep from in between the plates of her armor as she lands on the ground, and she begins to move. It begins to crust over and sort of integrate itself into the rest of her armor.
Yep.
And she walks in front of you, and she's very clearly leaving a visible trail of slime as she moves.
I kind of like look to Rep, knowing he has some issues with humor, but kind of give him a elbow nudge, and kind of say, I wonder if they drag that around everywhere.
I do too.
But the second thing you notice is as the slime is being left by her as she's trailing it, it's actually turning into like a small forest, like a small bonsai forest, and mushrooms and things are growing in her wake as she moves along.
That's a twist on Hansel and Gretel.
Bless you.
That obvious, yeah. Rep saying that is going to say, life and death.
And it's a very interesting thing. And Evie, you understand that specifically in the Wild Pantheon, that everything has a plus and a minus, especially with the Wild Pantheon specifically. And this is a proper representation of the Plague Lord, that taking life intrinsically gives way to other forms of life and things like that. And this is a physical manifestation of that sort of belief and the values that the Plague Lord himself represents. And as she moves, they sort of everybody makes way. And the thing that you notice is that she smells sweet. She doesn't smell terrible. She smells not necessarily like cinnamon or anything specific, just an overall like sweet aroma is emitted from her always. And she moves forward, and then the Ranger General moves to the Queen's left, and the commander moves to her right, and then Yvonne is shoulder to shoulder with her as they're moving along, not directly behind, but lagging a little bit farther behind the voice. And then you guys are directly behind them. Is anyone doing anything specific as you move along?
I kind of gravitate towards, what is the ranger leader's name?
Sama.
Sama. Oh, I'm on the wrong page. Sama Ahlund. 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 I'm gonna type. I'm gonna put in Soulforged proper spelling of people's names.
I kind of gravitate towards her, and inquire as to how she came to be, in the party of this queen.
she looks at you, and you guys are about the same height. She's a little bit shorter than you, but she's dressed in this full-scale mail armor that appears to be made of mithril or some sort of fantasy ore that appears to be very light. And on her back, she has a large tempered bow. And when I say a large tempered bow, it's like a great bow. It's not just like a long bow. It is a huge bow. And she sort of looks at you strangely as you come alongside her, and she says, "Well, I've put myself in this position by years of work and showing that I am the most skilled hunter in the world. And contrary to my heritage, I don't care about nature. It just helps me be that much more sneaky."
Interesting. I don't really know what to do with that, but I'm sure we just kind of continue chatting until we get to the inn where we're gonna have our discussion.
And I approach Gunnet Mattis and just trying my best to not indicate that I have any idea what might be going on. I ask him if the queen was wearing such a beautiful necklace. It seems like it had a purpose. What's the story behind that?
Oh, it's protection magic. She's protected by her god.
Who is her god?
Oh, that would be the light's advent. And also known as gleam in some cultures.
And he appears to have a load of dental issues, is the main thing that's wrong with this guy that you can tell. His teeth are black, and he doesn't seem to care. You may not be able to breathe, but you can still smell, and you can sense he's got horrible breath. Even when he's talking at you, and he's much shorter than you are. And he appears to have a sort of lisp because his teeth are awful.
Is there a temple of Gleam around here?
No, that would be in the capital. There is one. It's something she was given by her husband not long ago.
It's fascinating. Thank you for the information.
You're welcome. I appreciate it. The inquiry, that is. Now, if you'll back up for security reasons. Thank you.
And as you sort of back away, you guys make your way around, you snake around these areas, and you move into not an alleyway, but this sort of like, essentially like restaurant alley type thing. And one of the large taverns, has a bunch of signs in the windows saying closed for reservation or something. Do any of you speak Primordial?
No.
I speak choose a language.
You guys are unable to read the sign, but as soon as you head in, there's a load of wait staff waiting, and they sort of all bow simultaneously as you go in. They bow to each of you as you go in. And as soon as you go inside, choose a language. What? What is that?
The only 4 I have on my character sheet are the other 4, but choose a language isn't there.
That's weird. We'll look into it.
Okay.
We'll look.
Choose a language too, actually. Common Elvish and choose a language.
Oh. The languages should have been chosen already. If not, we'll figure it out. But you go inside, and there's a load of Ganassi. So they're half elemental, half human, or like elemental. Actually, no, I think they're related to jinns, actually. But there's a load of fire Ganassi inside. And they're sort of waiting for you guys, and they seat all the accompanying characters together, and then Yvonne and the Queen are sitting at a separate table, although it's like a 2-person table, and they sort of sit down and look at each other. And this is where we're going to take our 15-minute break. Rest. There it is. So we will see you guys in around 15 minutes. I'm going to start my timer now. And then we'll see you guys in 15 minutes.
If you learn to speak deep, then you can be
Whoa.
philosophically sound.
Welcome back, everybody, to Legendary Tales. Larashik is taking a nap, apparently. Welcome back to the negotiation phase. Are you guys doing anything specific while you're in this tavern?
Is Yvonne still talking to the queen?
He is.
Okay, Rep would like to walk up and address both of them.
Okay.
Forgive me for interrupting, but how long has it been since you were in a relationship with each other?
The queen just gives you an eye and raises an eyebrow, and he says, Yvonne says, well, I do have a question for you, though. What about me says that I enjoy the company of women?
Forgive me. I have made an assumption based on your earlier behavior. And then just immediately just like walks off.
Honestly, a little bummed, just because I thought he was flirting with me at the beginning, but I can see I was severely mistaken. Lost another one.
The only person that has romance right now
make
is
a
the guy that
perception
can't
check.
perceive
Actually,
anything.
Evie, make a perception check for me, please.
Me?
Yeah.
How good is my gaydar?
He actually looks at you and winks.
There's hope!
Because he saw that you, like, I'm fairly, Evie basically was not hiding any of that you're like, and he just looks at you and he goes,
Wrecked. Excellent. Carry on.
continue. What are you doing, Loershik, right now?
I can't get my fucking mind out of the gutter. We're in the tavern. Yeah.
You are, yes.
I just loudly ask, where can I get some meat?
Does Yvonne wink at him too?
No.
Damn it.
Is his name Yvonne or
Yvonne.
Yevon?
Yvonne.
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 E-E,
Got it.
as if it was E-E-V-O-N. Yvonne.
Yvonne.
Got it.
Yvonne.
Just making sure it's not Yvonne. Is he gonna give me his meat or?
One of
Why
the
are we in nature if we're in a tavern?
because I couldn't find my tavern song. I have like 300 songs on here. Oh, there it is. There it is. I found it. I'll fix it. I'll fix it. I'm fixing it. I lost it again. One of the fire ganassi come over to you. Whoa, why are there two? Oh, I get it. Hold on, let me mute.
Is there a bard in the tavern?
There is.
Or something playing?
There
this?
is.
Okay.
I believe I have a lyre. Hang on. Where's it at?
I walk over to the bard while she's doing this and just start to like do a little jig while I wait for someone to bring me meat.
As you're sitting there, a bunch of fire ganassi come from the back, and they start putting down loads of platters just full of meat, bread, cheese, just a plate that's just full of cups full of different drinks and things like that, different imbibations, libations, I think is the word I was looking for. But yeah, there's loads of food, just tons of food they put on this giant circular table that you guys are all sitting around. The commander and the ranger general eat as well. One particular thing you do notice is that the ranger general does not eat meat. She appears to be vegetarian of some sort, and partakes in only the non-meat things. The dwarf immediately grabs like 2 pints of beer and begins to just double fist in beer at this point.
While that's happening, I reach down with my finger, claw, talon, whatever, and just pull the bag open enough that something could fit through it if it wanted to.
What are you going to put down there, then? What are you going to do? What are you thinking about doing? Hello? Are you alive? What are you doing? Mate.
I choose
Mate.
to just ignore it.
Mate.
And
Mate.
just
Mate. What are you doing? Want some food? Feed me. Put it right in my mouth. Bet you never heard that before.
I reach underneath the bag and kind of tap it from below. As
Oh,
if I was suggesting
naughty.
he's welcome to.
Oh, he sort of like wiggles his way up and is like, what's going on here, then? What? Whoa. He sort of hops onto the table. Starts looking at stuff. Like looking at people. Mate. What? And he sort of waddles, like bounces his way over to the Ranger General and the Commander. What are you doing, Vidar, since you do not eat?
Oh, I am deciding which of my teammates here is going to be the least embarrassing to talk to at the moment. The only one that hasn't made a scene so far is Evie, so I think I'm going to approach Evie and ask her if she knows anything about temples in the area.
Do I know anything about temples in the area?
Make a religion check. No, you know nothing.
I'll respond to Vidar and just say, I know not anything of this region.
The necklace that the queen was wearing, is Gunnet actually a dwarf? If I call
Yes,
him a dwarf,
yes,
is that-
yes.
Okay, let's say that's not going to be like trash talking him. The commander dwarf mentioned there's a temple that it belongs to in the capital. The scythe that we left in the mausoleum, when I had mentioned that there was someone that could cure or free the soul, I believe that there might be information about them there.
I would absolutely like to check that out when we're done here.
Okay.
And on that, I just sit there and watch people eat.
Rep Rap is specifically miming eating in an attempt to fit in.
Okay.
So just like picking things up off a plate and sort of putting him near his face and saying yum, and then putting it back down.
What are you doing, Loershik?
I'm carefully observing my friend who's bouncing around on the table while I eat some meat. I'm just kind of stuffing my face slowly, out of character almost, while I observe what my friend is doing.
I want to inquire, poke Luershik and notice he's a little bit distracted, which is kind of unlike him when he's eating, and ask if he's alright. Luershik.
Yeah, I dismissively just say, yeah. Everything's good, just a rough day. Did I ever find out my friend's name? My notes for session 1 have apparently evaporated.
You have not asked.
So yeah, I kind of dismiss Evie and just sum it up to a rough day.
Interesting. As you're doing it, as you're watching your friend bounce around, he goes up to the Ranger General and the commander, looks at them both, and he looks back at you, and then he comes, he takes a long look at both of them. Like 5-10 minutes, just watching him. Then he waddles, he bounces back to you. He says, right, I think there's something wrong with him. Like, beyond physically. I think there's something different. I don't know. There's just something there that I don't understand. It's all.
Is he on the table still in front of me next to like my plate, I assume?
Yeah.
I strategically place like a piece of meat on the edge of the plate closest to him, and just kind of slightly nod in his direction, and I excuse myself. Can someone point me to the nearest lavatory? I must relieve myself.
One of them points. One of the fire ganassi sort of point to one of the back areas of the tavern.
I stand up and I make a purpose to walk past Rep Rap, and I touch his shoulder as I walk by.
Okay. How do you respond, Rep Rap?
Yes. With a big question mark.
I just like kind of gesture this way, like I need my prostate exam.
All right, Rep Rap is going to scoot out from the table, stand up, and excuse himself, and follow Lurchik.
Okay.
I assume we find our way uneventfully to the back room.
Yeah.
Rep Rap.
Yes.
I'm not quite sure why, but I have a strange sense about them. Almost as if they're not real or alive.
They know each other from before, but I believe they were just friends.
Yeah, I think
I'm sorry, which them are you talking about?
The Queen and Yvonne. That's who the two.
So was I.
The two are my
No,
friends.
he's looking at the commander and the ranger general.
Okay, I correct myself. I'm sorry. I meant Commander Gunnet and Ranger General Sama.
Well, an elven huntress and a general with bad teeth are hardly anything out of the norm.
Man, he is really good at now picking up on social cues.
Mm-hmm.
Rep, do me a favor.
Yes.
When I go out there, let's say something were to happen. I need you to pretend or tell other people that I am simply nothing more than a klutz and a bumbling buffoon.
That is not that much of a stretch.
I bow my head. Just
There.
This is just my day.
There. This is humor, friends.
I slap his robotic arm away and says, "Come with me." I walk back out towards the table.
Mm-hmm.
I assume the commander and ranger are sitting next to each other if he was so close to them at once. And I assume at this point their backs are to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to approach from the back. And I stumble unathletically. And is the ranger wearing a cloak or anything?
Make a
of that nature?
performance check for me, please.
Okay. God damn it.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't bad, actually. The ranger general is wearing a cloak, yes.
I just kind of stumble and trip and use the ranger general's cloak as a device to catch onto as I fall. So I yank on it.
Okay. To what end? What are you attempting to do?
Trying to decloak her or expose some of her skin or something. I'm trying to understand if this is a facade, if she's disguised, if she has dead flesh hiding underneath her clothes, something.
Okay. You pull on her cloak, and surprisingly, it comes off incredibly easy, and you straight up eat the chair. Like, you're expecting her to, like, give resistance. You have to realize that a seasoned fighter or a seasoned combatant is going to be able to shed clothing that is not necessary at an instant, at any request. So if it got caught on something, it had a quick release. And you just eat that chair. Make a perception check at advantage for me, please. She looks perfectly fine. 17 is still good. 17 is really high.
Natural one in that. I rolled 2d20.
As you're looking and observing her, like, response to that, she genuinely does not even respond to that happening. She just continues eating, and she appears, everything that you look about her appears normal. She has some scarring, and her flesh seems fine. She has some, like, foliage growing out of it, but so does Evie. Evie has that sort of same aesthetic. It just looks a little bit different. Outside of that, she looks to be a normal Eladrin. She just is in a quote-unquote different season than Evie is.
I pick myself up, use the chair as a device, just kind of force myself up, cloak still in hand. I walk back over to my spot, like cowardly dragging it behind me, and I hand the cloak to Evie.
I'll kind of take it and give him a little bit of a side eye, because I already asked what was going on, and now he's doing this performative mumbo jumbo. And I turn to the rest of the party and say, "You'll have to excuse my friend. Sometimes he's a little bit of a theatrics." And I kind of glance back to Lorishik and ask him, like, under my breath, what he's doing.
I just kind of like put my talents up, or I look over at Evie. And I just kind of like gesture in the commander's direction, and just like wide eye at Evie.
Hopefully I understand that message. Do I have to roll for it?
Make an insight check at advantage. Oh no! You rolled 2 ones? Are you kidding me?
But okay, but with the setup of that, I notice already something is up. Is this? Do I really not know?
You roll 2 nat ones. You might as well just disappear at this point.
Notice, but at this point, he's pissing you off.
So the whole thing for me is how I would interpret 2 ones in this aspect is you see that he's trying to tell you something. He's a lizard folk. You don't understand his cues, how he works socially. This is unfamiliar territory, and it's purely because his facial features are not human-like. They're reptilian, right? To where he has big eyes all the time. So him making his eyes bigger doesn't tell you anything. So you're looking at him and you're like, I don't know how to read your face. I don't know how to do it. But that is, you would have gotten something had you rolled not 2 nat ones. I'm just saying that in this specific aspect, you are just confused by his facial structure more than anything else. And what exactly, you know that he wants you to look at something, but you don't understand.
Okay, so he didn't say anything. He just made like facial gestures.
And so Evie's over here staring at me with a blank stare. Just
yeah, like you've seen her frustrated. You've seen her angry. You've seen all of these emotions, and she's showing nothing, absolutely nothing.
At this point, I just sigh and like let my head down, and I look at my skull, who's still sitting on the table, probably like now nomming on the piece of meat, and say, "What is it?"
You're asking.
I'm asking the skull.
There's something wrong with him. I don't know what it is. I was hoping you could tell me. I don't have.
What do you mean?
Magic powers. I don't know. I would have to be able to detect or analyze what's going on with him. I don't have a body. I don't have the ability to cast spells anymore. I've got nothing. But there's something wrong with him. Look. I don't know how to explain it. It's just something off. Something.
I'm just gonna hand the cloak back to the commander and kind of silently apologize. How does she take it back?
She looks at you and she goes, "Oh, I didn't even realize it was gone. Thank you. That happens so often that most of the time I have to go back and I realize it's gone. So, thank you. Sincerely. What happened? Do you know what happened?"
I'm gonna cover up for Lorishik and just say that someone snagged it on their way by.
Roll a deception check at advantage, please. Okay. It doesn't take much to. She doesn't really care. She's not offended.
Can I roll to see if I heard Loershik talking to himself /
No, you heard it. Everyone heard it.
But he's been doing that a lot lately.
I have okay, so Rep, what is your Steel Defender? What's your Defender doing right now?
Steel Defender has... No, I came back. I said I follow you. Yeah, Steel Defender has basically just been sitting by the door, remaining vigilant as Steel Defender is wont to do.
What is its reaction to the voice?
That's a good question. It's neutral to the voice. Mainly because Steel Defender will wait for something to happen and then...
If the voice
deflect.
were to attempt to interact with your thing, what would it do?
So it would tentatively assume friendliness.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, as you guys are sitting there, I would, at this point, with the way the tables are set up, the four of you have your backs to the door. And Rep, you're just sort of walking around because that's what you do. You look over, and the voice is petting your dog, your defender. As she does this, the skin of the fox reanimates and jumps off of your Steel Defender as a full fox.
Interesting. It has never done that before.
Like the skin of the fox sort of animates and leaps off, like hits on the ground, and then flesh sort of like weaves its way back onto the fox, and it just sort of stands up and looks around and is like, "I'm a fox in a tavern. What do I do?" And the voice sort of jumps back a little bit and then pushes the door open, and the fox scurries outside. And as you're looking at your Steel Defender, the sort of color of it has changed to become not rusted, but tarnished. in a strange way. It's almost a blue-green hue now.
Do I see all this happening?
Make a perception check for me, because you're between meat and talking to the old king. Oh my god! This is so.
Just off, Laura. Shake it. Now.
This is actually incredible how many fails we've had today. Yeah, so your Steel Defender sort of changes hues as it's interacting with the voice. Nothing grows on it, though. So, since there's no organic parts, it doesn't really, like, it just changes, the metal itself tarnishes a little bit, and it sort of changes its overall color slightly. Almost as if the metal has aged significantly for some reason.
Okay, so Rep is going to talk to the voice and say, "Did you do that?"
The voice nods at you.
What has happened to the steel?
All you hear back is
Time.
one word, time. And it's sort of a guttural, like, almost the response, the only way I could describe the response is as if a frog was talking to you. Or a toad. Wide, very wide mouth.
I understand.
And she looks at you, the voice looks at you, and her hand goes this way and curls, and a flower grows out of her palm, and it's that thorned stem with a absolutely gorgeous black lotus with purple tips on the end of it. She grows it out of her hand and hands it to you and then points to Evie.
For her.
And the nod.
Thank you. And I very carefully, very delicately pick up the flower.
Oh no, just what Spooky said in chat.
Oh, okay. Very carefully and very delicately picks up the flower by the top. And brings it back. Go ahead.
I was just about to, like, I'm cutting you off. Like, have I seen this type of flower before?
No, never.
Okay, carry on.
Picks it up by the top and starts to carry it back over to the table. But would like to identify it on the way over.
Sure, go and roll a nature check at disadvantage.
Oh, actually, I was going to cast Identify.
Oh, really? Okay, do it.
Okay.
You can cast as a ritual. If you cast as a ritual, it takes time, but it doesn't take up a spell slot. So.
Well, it would take longer than me walking back to the table, right? So.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you want to use a spell slot, you can.
Yeah, we'll do that.
You cast Identify on this, and it does appear to have some sort of latent magic to it, but it's not arcane magic. It's absolutely 100% life, also known in this universe as essence. So this is sort of like a very tiny minor version of soul stitching. It's sort of strange, but this is a brand new thing. And it's just called a spirit lotus. That's like the information that comes up for you in your mind. Is just a spirit lotus. That's what the flower is called.
Okay. So I'm gonna go back to the table and go directly to Evie and put the flower very delicately right in front of her, the spirit lotus, and say, "The voice has crafted this for you."
I'm kind of like a little bit shocked by it because a piece of earth just was placed in front of me while I'm eating. But I'm enthralled with how beautiful it is. And I ask Rep Rap, what was the intention? Why for me?
I do not know. You would have to ask the voice. But I found communicating with the voice quite difficult.
Can I cast message to try and talk to the voice instead of with words?
Oh, interesting. You cast message, you point at the voice, and the first thing that you hear when you what do you say first? Because you have to say something first in order for her to be able to respond to you.
I'm like between thanking her and just like not on the offensive, but just like asking immediately about why are you giving this to me? I will say thank you for the beautiful flower. Can you tell me why you're handing this to me specifically?
And you hear one of the most soothing, beautiful voices from a woman you have probably ever heard, and she says, "You remind me of myself before my transformation." That's all. Just a sort of favor that says beauty begets beauty. That's all.
Oh. Can I continue this conversation, or is she
Sure.
kind of backing away?
Well, she sort of backs a little bit off, but she's appears to be very much preoccupied with like protection and security and things like that.
Yeah.
It's not that she doesn't want to talk, it's just that she has a job to do.
Yeah. Okay. I'll kind of I'll thank her again and accept the gift for now and leave her be.
What are you doing with it?
Well, it's a living thing, right? But it's magical, so I'm assuming it can live without being planted, or no?
It would appear as such, yes.
I'll leave it out on the table for now because I don't want to shove it into my bag. So I'll leave it out on the table, but when we leave, I'll probably put it in my bag.
Okay.
Wherever the berries are. Keep my magic plants together.
Okay. Vidar, what are you doing during this whole conversation? What are you doing during this whole thing? Yvonne and the Queen laugh every once in a while. They're interacting with each other. Yvonne has his like little black leather book that he showed you guys before. He's taking notes. The Queen has also retrieved a bright orange leather-bound book as well from her sort of handbag that she has attached to her belt, and has been taking notes, and they've been chatting back and forth and laughing and things like that. Just to keep you informed that they are, in fact, talking and negotiating and having a conversation and stuff. I just want to know if you're doing anything specific, Vidar, because you're obviously the most quiet. And you said you wanted to take note of Loershik talking to apparently no one.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing with that?
I feel like at this point there's been a lot more interesting things happening. Between a fox popping up out of apparently nowhere, the fact that Steel Defender is no longer a fox, and
it's a robot? Yeah.
the fact that Evie just got a flower from seemingly out of nowhere. It feels like there's a lot of out of nowhere popping up. But through most of this, up until being startled by some of these things, mostly just kind of pondering about the whole Gleam situation still. And would it be odd that the Queen is wearing a necklace for Gleam and yet having Urok's voice with her? Is it like any?
So from your understanding of how religion worked when you were first created, the world has evolved infinitely since then. So your understanding is that there could be a handful of reasons for that. And also, it's more the fact that... Hold on. Let me see if you know who the Plague Lord is. Yes. So, Plague Lord Urok was already a god when you were created. So, whatever process that involves... And this is like distant memory for you. That when someone mentioned the Plague Lord in passing, and in this specific instance about the voice as a concept wasn't even a thing. And in relative terms, the world was new in that aspect. So you can assume that in some way, shape, or form, Gleam and the Plague Lord are sort of, quote-unquote, on the same side. Because the lack of... It's not that the party lacks religious knowledge. It's just that you have not interacted with someone who has a ton of knowledge of religion. You get what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
To understand why they're cool with each other. Because Plague Lord Urok is not a war god. He's not a driver of death, as far as you understand it. That specifically with his domains, that Plague Lord Urok is not... he has no war, he has no tempest, he has no order, no peace. Like, he has specific domains, but none of them involve going out of your way to kill people.
Would I have noticed Evie messaging the voice, or is that like...
You would understand that something is happening, but you don't know what it is. You might know that she casts message, but you don't know anything past that.
I think for the most part that I'm just sitting there kind of pondering the whole Gleam situation and how we might... One of the whole, like, when these people are done talking, maybe we can go check with the capital or ask Yvonne about it, but he's a bit preoccupied with the Queen, and I'm not about to interrupt that.
Okay. Is anyone else doing anything before we move on to the next part? Anything of note? Lawyer Schick, are you doing anything specific?
I gesture to the bag while staring at my friend, and just kind of like do my best with my scaly face to make it clear to him that I'm...
No, he gets it. He sort of jumps off and like bounces off your shoulder into the bag.
Cool. That's it.
He does whisper up at you. He's like, right, get me some more of that meat and just toss it in so I can have something to eat.
I take a few pieces. I take a few extra and I stuff it in there, but like on one of the sides of the pillow that's inside. That way it's not like covering where he's supposed to sit. Just kind of respecting his space.
Thanks, mate. Right. See you in a bit. You close up the bag. Evie, are you doing anything else?
I'll probably just put my flour in my bag carefully, and that's it.
Okay, so you carefully put your flour in the bag. And that's that. Technician, are you doing anything before we move on? Okay.
No. Yeah.
Okay. And then Vidar, I assume that's you just looking, just watching stuff. Not too long into the conversation, about 45 minutes in, after all the shenanigans and all this crazy stuff happens, Yvonne and the Queen stand up. They embrace each other in a hug. He comes over to you guys and he says, well, negotiations are concluded. We can make our way to the next checkpoint in our journey, which is actually Helsinki. We could also stop off in Talakha
to have a sort of party with the queen and the king and the other people of their court, if you would like to, or we could just go straight from Helsinki to we won't be going to see the warbands, obviously. That would be a death sentence. So I believe that we should go to Siltheim, or we could go straight back to meet the young king, if we have to. What are you thinking? What are you thinking as a party? And he sort of looks like he's looking at you guys, and you can see that the rest of the entourage stands up, meets with the queen, like the ranger general straightens out her clothes because she was sitting down and things like that. And they leave the hall. And Yvonne follows them out. He bows, he comes back in, he sits down, and he says, well, we have a choice. We can go to Helsinki and we can just go. Or we could go to Talacha. And I overheard the Gleam and things from Vidar. What are your thoughts? What would you like? Do you have an objective? What is your plan?
I would love to see the Temple of Gleam in...
Oh, it is so beautiful. We also have Temples of Gleam in Artstadt as well, but the one here is actually where the voice is. I believe the voice of the Plague Lord will be going back to her home in Fossvog. There's a large swamp nearby, and that is where the Plague Lord temple is, also known as the Cistern.
She won't be going to the party?
Though the Plague Lord is not welcome in the capital at the moment. Specifically the voice. She sort of causes issues of her presence is quite heavy in that she's unsettling to the eyes.
She is quite large.
It's not even that she's enormous. It is the fact that she is of rusty and like she leaks fluids that turn into life. I don't know how you understand what I mean. It made me very uncomfortable walking behind her, which is why I wanted to be up front. She makes me uncomfortable, and the general populace is on agreement with that sentiment. So, therefore, she's not allowed in the capital unless she absolutely has to be.
Now that we're like standing up and preparing to leave, do I by chance see that the Steel Defender is no longer a fox? Since fantastic.
Oh yeah, you're like, what the fuck is that? Because you've always seen it as like a fox, just like there's something off about the fox. But now that you're looking at it, you're like, that is not a fox at all.
I call over to Rep Rap and say, what happened to your fox?
That is Defender, and Defender has met time.
What do you mean met time?
Well, as all things must, the shape has changed due to the progression of time.
But time progressed equally for every... What happened?
I know. In a very localized area, time progressed much faster. It is fascinating. I could pretend to understand if that would make you feel more at ease.
What happened to... Why does he no longer look like a fox?
Well, Steel Defender has never been a fox. Steel Defender was wearing a fox skin. When the voice interacted with the fox skin reanimated into a fox, and that fox left. And all that remains is the Steel Defender. I don't know what you would call it. Resurrected?
She reanimated a dead being.
I don't believe she intended to.
Can
She is known to do that. She does reanimate dead material, not reanimate in necromancy. She physically channels life into whatever exists. And whether or not life existed in the first place is the only key aspect of it. For example, if we're to take the bones that you decide to take from everyone, if she interacts with those bones, that person may come back to life.
So I, at this point, walk over to the queen and offer her one of my...
The queen is left.
Bone.
The queen is gone.
The queen left
Oh.
already. Yeah.
I thought she was still here. Okay,
No.
ignore that. I walk over to the voice.
The voice is
And
still outside,
I-
yes.
I hand her the half spear of the Skeleton King.
She looks at it. Takes it in her hand, and it crumbles to dust immediately.
I take it you don't like my gift.
Make an insight check at advantage, please. She doesn't not like your gift. It's she can't do anything with it. It's too old. She has no control over that aspect of it.
I walk back towards the group, and I pat my sack.
That was not
I'd
up to
say-
that was actually not up to her. That's the problem.
That's fine. I pat my sack and say, "I tried for you, buddy."
I get it, mate. I appreciate it.
Thank you for trying for us, but which of us is your buddy?
Evie, of course. I put my arm around Evie. I kind of pull her in. Evie's my buddy.
Ah, friends. And that's it. That's all.
Well, I'm glad that you guys are getting more acquainted. I assume that you knew each other, but now things are becoming abundantly clear that you did not, in fact, know each other. But it's fine. So what's the plan? Are we going to Talaka or are we going to Helsinki? What would you like to do?
It sounds like everybody is quite interested in the local culture and customs and religion. Talaka would probably be the best next stop.
Then it is agreed. We'll go to Talaka, and we'll be there. It's early morning. If we leave now, we might be able to make it to Djursvalla in 2 or 3 days. 3 days probably. Hopefully, we don't see some crazy things on the way. These areas are not prone to as much hostile wildlife as it is in the crag, as far as my understanding. So that's it. I just thought you should know that the roads here are extremely safe for the rangers. Actually, the ranger general herself is part of that proponent that makes the road safe. So you don't have to worry about bandits or anything for the most part. There are a few exceptions, but we should be covered.
Does this count as a short rest, or
It will be a long rest. At least a long rest. As you guys, we're going to transition to Forest Day because we're no longer in the tavern. Yvonne goes and grabs, basically hires a bunch of horses and any supplies that you require. And actually, along your journey, you guys actually pass the caravan of the queen and her sort of entourage. Because a carriage is not going to be as fast as a horse that's unladen and unburdened. You guys are actually able to pass it fairly quickly. Basically the third day, as soon as you arrive in Djursvalla, you do pass them. And you arrive in Djursvalla. Djursvalla is the transitional city. Excuse me. The transitional city between the hot and humid swamp marsh area of the main part of the Verdengard to the frosted, unprotected area between Djursvalla and Talaka. And you arrive here, and it's cold, but it's not as cold as in the crag. The crag is just unrelenting frost all the time, every day, always. This place is like, yeah, there's some snow on the ground, but it's melted and it's wet and it's just chilly. It's not actually that cold. It doesn't appear to be cold enough to snow. But on the map, it just purely represents that it is colder in this area specifically. And Djursvalla is known for producing the world's best entertainers. The majority of bard colleges actually reside in Djursvalla. So if you go to any bard college, more than likely you'll be sent to Djursvalla unless your specific area has one already. But they're very expensive, and only the best of the best go here. So the best poets, the best orators, the best performers, the best dancers, everything that has to do with bardic, both magic and performance, are from Djursvalla. If I look at my spreadsheet, my favorite spreadsheet, my population density spreadsheet, I can tell you a rough estimate. Where are you, Verdengard? You are gray. Excuse me. No, it's red. Where is it? Djursvalla is a town of roughly 17,000. Roughly 17,000. And Akkut is between 11 and 12,000 on average population. So it's a much larger city. And you guys arrive there late in the evening on the third day. What are each of you doing as you arrive here? And the road on the way here is paved in these giant stone pavers that appear to be made of granite and are overgrown with moss and other life forms that only exist in places that are not very chaotic in weather and things like that.
So, a town full of entertainers. I would assume that there would be some. Oh, the one old man didn't like my joke. There would be some buskers.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
But they don't have like hats on the ground or anything like that. If you'd like to make a knowledge, I'm trying to think of what it would be. Is it? I just played Star Wars this weekend. Make a just a history check. Just a history check for me, please.
Okay.
Generally speaking, busking, depending on what college you're going to, is college credit worthy. So a lot of them don't do it for money, because if they get money, cool. But if they don't, it's not really an issue. One of the ones that you can tell, though, is there's a very short human woman dressed in a beautiful kimono-type robe, and it's pure white, and she has a large sort of wooden palette on her hand, and she appears to be painting with a tempered paintbrush into the air, essentially. She appears to be painting something. And she has a small white rabbit running around with a basket attached to on a harness on her back, running around to people in the crowd, and they're dropping assorted coins and things into the basket. And she's painting this beautiful thing in the air. It appears to you guys as if like the paint is suspending itself in the air, and like the air is her canvas. And it's actually a 3-dimensional painting. It's actually like, it's almost like she's sculpting with paint in the air, and it's actually quite beautiful.
Do I notice this too? Yeah.
Yeah. It would be hard to fail this perception check. It's just
Rep is going to wait for the rabbit to come around and drop a gold in there.
Okay. The rabbit sort of stands up to you, puts its paws together, and then bows deeply to you.
And just nod at the rabbit.
What is she painting?
She is painting a picture of the queen. And it is perfect. It's almost Uncanny Valley levels of spot on. Like her initial sketch was like this white paint that she did the overall form, and she's walking around this sort of anchored point in space where she's painting over her frame that she painted initially, and then she's blending in colors, and it's all with this crazy magic paintbrush that you've never seen before. It just has a little dot, sort of like your Goodberry branch. It has a dot of temper at the very end of it, and she's painting in space this sculpture of the queen, and it is perfect. Like actually perfect. Everything that she is painting is spot on.
I point to her and I say, "Oh, look, she's rift indexing." At least that's what we call it back home.
That's funny. It may be inspired by that. You don't know.
I'll approach her and ask, how is she doing this painting in midair? Like I can see the magic paintbrush, but just want to.
She looks at you, and this is the most ivory pale woman you've ever seen, but her skin is flawless. No blemishes, nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with her. She's very beautiful. She looks at you and she smiles, and she just says, "The College of Illusion is powerful in magic, but that doesn't mean that everything has to be an illusion. But if you want to charm someone, or if you want to convey a message, you have to have the base skills to paint a picture in some cases. If you want to believe that someone is real, make them look real." She looks at you and she puts her paintbrush in like a little holder on her palette. She snaps and the head comes to life. Poof. And it looks directly at you and smiles, and it looks exactly like the queen.
I'm kind of taken aback to just shift back and kind of look at it in awe. Honestly, I would start thinking of like the uses for this in practice, like for illusions and
you're realizing that this person is an absolute master of illusion magic. Like that, you can think of no one better than this example right here of how to do illusion magic properly.
Is there any chance that this magic was being used earlier and we didn't notice?
No, not at all. Because that illusion magic usually is only, from your understanding, and you have a fairly good understanding of illusion magic, is it's usually either visual, sound, touch, or smell. It's usually one of those, right? And it's usually like stationary. This level of illusion, in order to make the queen really an illusion, you would have to be the best of the best of the best in order to do everything. Because she had a scent, she had a voice, you could if you wanted to go up and touch her, she interacted with Yvonne, right? If
she's just practicing at the moment.
Yeah, if that was an illusion, like, yeah. So this version of her is like scaled up a little bit, like 1.5 times maybe for like proportions wise. But this illusion, if you were to see it from a distance, you would be very confused. What do the rest of you do? What are you doing, Vidar, right now? Because this is something you've never seen before. This level of illusion magic. Like, yours tricks the mind by default, because that's how it's designed. This is like, what?
Yeah, I think that I'm just watching observantly. Also waiting for the rabbit to come back around with a gold in my hand, but not trying to make it too obvious. And if the rabbit just comes around, then I don't drop the gold in.
Technician, what are you doing?
I'm studying sort of the technique because my main interest is the paintbrush itself, right? Reprap's interest in this would be the brush because it is a magical item, and that's the chief interest here is gonna be precisely that.
From your understanding, it probably functions as a form of illusion magic arcane focus, and uses paint as a sort of medium, and a physical component to a spell that doesn't normally need one. So it's sort of just an enhancing item specifically for illusion magic.
Gotcha. Okay.
Or at least that would be the way to make sense of it in its current state. Without getting on your hands on it and casting Identify and going further into it, you're not really going to understand it.
Without really diving in, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, mainly just amused is the wrong word.
Intrigued?
I mean, intrigued, amused in that area.
Okay.
Like seeing something beautiful created and appreciating the awe of creativity.
Lorishik, are you doing anything else?
Do I understand the function of the rabbit? Like what it's collecting gold for? Is this something I've seen before?
No, you don't understand.
Can I make an assumption?
With the way that Technician interacted with it, yes.
Okay.
It's very simple to understand. It's the fact that the rabbit is linked to the girl, and the girl is just asking for tips for performance, essentially. You understand that as a concept, but you've never seen it used in this manner, where it's like it appears to be a sentient creature or a creature that's actually like really, really good at it. I'm not going to make him roll for that because that is cruel. I'm not going to be cruel to the man.
I get down on one knee and I give it 5 gold. And I take an extra gold out of my backpack and I drop it in my pouch.
What's that for? I don't understand. Do you need something? I don't get it. Please. Don't leave me here. Sorry. I got nothing.
So we have the girl painting. Do we see anything else of interest? Can I do a perception check?
Sure. There's not loads of stuff that interests you specifically. If anyone else would like to make a perception check for for any interesting characters, you could do that.
Yeah, I'll roll.
There's a handful of like bards that are playing music. There's a handful of bards that are doing like card tricks. There's like a like a street magician style guy who's like playing tricks on people and like doing all sorts of really fun stuff, just messing with them. It's like, oh, your sword was in my stomach. He's like, he pulls the sword out of his stomach, and like all sorts of crazy like sort of shows are happening everywhere. But the vast majority of them are not asking for money. And with that, you'll notice that there are like officials from every bard college all around here. Specifically represented here is the College of Creation, the College of Lore, the College of Glamour are the three real big ones, and then there's a handful of these very well dressed people that are walking around just talking to people. At the end of their conversation, you're not really sure what they're saying, but at the end of their conversation, they hand them a small, like, rolled up piece of paper or parchment, and they wink at them and then walk away. They talk very quietly is the thing that you're not really sure about.
What are they wearing?
They are wearing incredibly high cost silk garments for the most part. Silk, satin, carved leather. That's like one of the big ones. Is like if they're wearing armor, it's very polished, it's very pretty. All of the women are dressed in like those like gown dresses that are like 6 feet in diameter, and they have like corsets and they have wigs on, and they're all very, very pretty.
Would I be able to recognize this as royalty or perhaps higher education? Like
they're definitely a form of bard, but you're not really sure what. They're not royalty because they're interacting with regular people. A lot of nobles and people in that aspect, you understand because you're what you are. Don't talk to normal
the
people.
Queen was interacting with normal people.
She was not. She was not giving anything out. She had a bunch of like smaller aides that were giving people out.
Right.
But she only ever interacted with you guys and Yvonne.
Okay.
She never had a personal interaction with a normal person.
So with our garb, essentially, all of us are out of place except Lorishik, really.
Yeah, because you all look pretty normal comparatively to literally everyone in the streets here. Except for a handful of like workers that you could tell that they're either city workers or like the standard craftsmen, butchers, etc. Like normal people that the city requires to run. Outside of that, you're essentially in a college town where everyone is a bard.
What is Yvonne doing?
Yeah.
Oh, Yvonne is straight up dancing, like with a load of people. And he's hugging some other people. He seems very familiar to a lot of these people.
I walk over to Vidar. Sorry. I walk over to Vidar and say to him, everything seems very happy here. Almost too happy.
Yes, and Yvonne feels awfully at home for someone who is so far from home.
Did you get the sense that the Ranger General and the General Mattis,
The commander?
commander, were off?
No, but I was a little preoccupied focusing on the necklace of gleam that the queen was wearing.
There's been a lot of seemingly strange, out of place things happening that don't sit right with me.
Do most things sit right with you? You've been talking to yourself an awful lot lately.
Talking about, what do you... What do you mean?
I'm pretty sure we are all your buddy, not just Evie. And you also talked to your meat several times. Usually you just eat it.
I mean, I sometimes whack my meat and play with it. I mean, but I'm not sure what you're referencing. I kind of like gesture my pouch like slightly further back on my hip, just like not necessarily knowingly, but subconsciously.
Okay.
As if to protect it.
Do I notice this?
Probably not, to be honest with you. You're not that keen, especially specifically with interacting with Lorishik.
Well, aside from that, no, I haven't noticed anything particularly odd.
You're calling me odd now. Understood.
Perhaps not the oddest in the group.
Evie, what's up? What are you doing?
I think Evie is very uncomfortable in this setting, not because of the music. She likes music. Not really because of the crowds either. Like, that's fine as well, but just the sheer amount of, like, high class and, like, people decked out and being showy. Like, that's very much the opposite of how I feel and how I'm comfortable being.
Okay.
So, enjoying some of the natural wonders of the music and the performance, but for the most part, just kind of closed into myself a bit.
Okay. So you're sort of backing up as opposed to everyone else is like going forward. Yvonne comes back to you guys and says, What's with the long faces? Why are you sort of off put?
Oh, Rip Rap, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I am not. I am simply fascinated with the mechanism, and I must understand it.
Oh, it's just magic. A lot of these things have like magical components and things like that. And in case you're wondering, these are my colleagues. I came here initially for 3 years, and I studied to be I was part of the college of, how do you say, the College of Sorts. I am sort of combined warrior and orator, you could say. That was my job. So I have learned it from here, and that is what I do. I am a bard. These are my people. I know most of these people. We came here together. Some of them taught me, some I taught them some things, that sort of thing. Everyone learns from each other. It's beautiful. It's quite beautiful.
That is quite beautiful.
While this is going on, I'm just like staring directly at Yvonne, and like it's very noticeable that I'm displeased and concerned with him in general.
What's wrong with you, Lorishik? Talk to me. Explain.
Things don't make sense. Why?
What do you mean?
Why are we accompanying a bard? Why are we protecting a bard? Why can some woman turn things back to life? And why are there talking skulls? And why are there 3D multi-dimensional magic paintings? And none of this makes sense.
I don't. I mean no offense by this statement. Okay? Just to preface it. I don't expect you to understand what's happening here. That being said, if you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer them for you, Lorishik. I don't want you to be uncomfortable. Because in my world, it's people-centric. So I need to know how to talk to people.
right? And everyone in this world, most people have some sort of connection to magic. And it's a beautiful connection that should be used and explored and put onto the world. And your perception may be a little bit too short for the world you're coming into. So there are people who are powerful enough to destroy this world in one swift moment. They choose not to because of things like this. Just look around you. And he sort of takes you by the shoulder and swings you around in like the center of the street, and you're looking around at all of these beautiful people interacting with one another, whether they're dancing or painting pictures or doing magic with cards decks or doing other really fun things. Like, everyone here is having fun, and he twirls you around, spins you around, and he says, all of these people here are here to make the world a better place. And you and I and Evie and Rep and Vidar, for some reason, exist in this world specifically to make it a better place. I wanted an entourage, a group of people with me to experience what I experience in the world. I am not here. You are not here to protect me. You're here to be my companions. Because traveling alone as a social butterfly as myself gets lonely. I want friends. I want to make friends. I want to show the people of this world that it is beautiful. We may be in a time and place where nothing looks very good, but there are pockets of this world that make it beautiful. And I want you to see that. Do you understand, Loershek?
I kind of like pause. I let out a hefty sigh, and I kind of walk off.
And as you're walking away, he says, if you're looking for a meat vendor, I know some very delicious meat nearby. They actually make it out of elk and these giant lizards that reside.
I interrupt his talking and pull one of the pieces of meat from the pouch and just kind of like shake it and put it back into the pouch.
But it won't be that. It will be better. You've never wanted to eat a giant lizard? Oh, that might be a little offensive. I apologize.
I just shake my head as my snakes will turn to him, and I keep walking.
Don't forget I love you. I care about you. And he's like pointing right at you, and you can feel his gaze upon you. He says, I care about you, Loershek. By the way, you're looking for the Crimson. It's just a tavern called the Crimson. It's down the street. At the end, we'll have a room waiting for you this evening.
I start walking that way.
Is anyone else uncomfortable with this situation? Evie, you seem a little bit out of place. And he offers you his hand.
I take his hand, mostly because it's Yvonne. And I let him know that this is not my favorite type of place, because I frequented this kind of thing a lot when I was younger, and it was very forcible, like forced to go with family or other people from where I grew up. And I spent a lot of time trying to get away from it, so it feels a little bit uncomfortable to be back.
Well, I understand that. Technician and Vidar, I have something that you should see. So, at night, only in Djursvalla, where we are a little bit higher elevation than the rest of this area. If we go toward the eastern side, they have a large hill that we can go onto, and something crazy happens at night. Someone go grab Loershek. Someone go get him. He needs to see this. I don't really care what he's doing right now. Do any of you go and get him?
I will take any chance to get away from the happening, so I'll run back and get him.
All right. So you, do you want to go with them, Loershek?
Just because I don't want to continuously be mean to Evie, I reluctantly turn around and follow her, like in her blind spot.
Kind of, as I try and get him to turn around, explain that I also am not completely comfortable with where we are and what we're doing, but it sounded like it could be something of interest to us.
I tell her I just don't want to have to get my mall dirty.
As you guys walk past him, you go to the east and you go up this hill, and it takes like a 15-minute walk up this hill, and you get to the very top of the hill. And Yvonne sort of pushes you guys forward, and he says, "Wait for it," because the sun is setting to the west over the mountains. And just as it begins to set over the mountains to the west, it sort of breaches the clouds and looks directly down. And something about the marshlands that's below you, you guys can see directly into it. There's like a cover of fog across the whole thing. The fog sort of raises up and begins to glow in a rainbow pattern all the way across it, just for 2 or 3 minutes, as the fog raises. And it's like the northern lights were happening, but just at the horizon where you guys are looking above the marshland. It's like being at the northern lights. And Yvonne looks at you and says, "This only happens in winter at the sunset. This is my favorite part of being in Djursvalla, is seeing this specifically. And it's actually gorgeous. It's so beautiful looking over this massive landscape and it releasing this huge burst of color over the marsh. And you realize that it's almost deathly quiet here. There's very few. There's like birds chirping. Yeah. There's bugs. You can hear like the sound of locusts or their equivalent in this world. And with that, Yvonne looks at you and he says, "Well," and it only lasts for 2 or 3 minutes. You can't really tell because it's actually quite beautiful. And the sun ends up setting and the night sky comes out. It's quite bright. And Yvonne looks at you and says, "Well, if we're going to get to Talacha in the next week, we should probably set out as early as possible. So let's all go to sleep, and I will see you in the morning." What is everyone doing?
I kind of, now that we're away from all the people, like linger a little bit at the overlook and do some introspection, trying to figure out what lies ahead.
Mm-hmm. You're not sure. There's a lot that could happen.
Rep is going to head back for the Crimson, but on the walk back, he's sort of tracing in the air the shape that he just saw, remembering the sort of the sunlight reflecting off of the swamps and the shape that made, because he's still sort of stuck in that moment with the three-dimensional painting.
Yeah.
And he's trying to recreate that his own way in a sense.
Okay.
With something that he just recognized as beautiful.
Okay. Vidar, what are you doing?
Mostly just walking back in silence, thinking about the journey ahead. Moved, but not like super moved by the fog.
True.
But appreciating that everyone else seemed far more moved than he was.
Loershek, what are you doing?
I open my pouch and kind of put my palm next to it, suggesting that I want him to hop into my hand.
Okay, and the skull pops out, and he turns toward the whole reflection, and he goes, "Fuck me." What?
And I just kind of like slyly look down to him and gesture.
He sort of backs up and he like sort of burrows himself into your palm, like, he just like You can even tell, like, even for being just a skull, it's very emotive in the fact that, like, you can immediately tell, like, what he's thinking. And he sort of is like, after it's over, he just sort of sits there. Thank you for that, truly. It was beautiful. Wow. I've got a lot to think about. And he sort of jumps back into the pouch on his own. Are you doing anything else on your way back, or are you going straight to the inn?
I'm just going straight to the inn.
Okay.
I'm in a sour mood at this point. I just I don't want to be around and socialize.
You get back to the inn, and you're able to sleep through the night in some of the most comfortable beds that you've ever slept in, ever. You awaken the next morning, and it's early morning. The sun has not even risen yet. And just outside, there are a load of horses waiting for you. Yvonne, smiling, looks at you and says, well, I have gotten breakfast to go so that we can head out early. We should be able to reach Antla by tomorrow evening. And if we would like to push through to Helsinki, we can do that. It only takes a day between the two of them. But it's up to you guys. We could push through for 2 days and then sleep well in Helsinki and then go to Talaha. But it's up to you.
You've spent time in this area. What is special about Antla?
Oh, Antla is a farming... They farm exclusively winter crops, but they have designed it in a way that it's all underground. So they have these huge cavernous areas underground that they farm massive amounts of crops. Because it turns out that a long time ago, a battle was fought in this area, and the richness of the soil underground is so much that it doesn't require the sun at all to grow crops.
Fascinating.
You just have to be very careful, because that sort of lack of sunlight breeds creatures, not the good kind. They're known for having all loads of devious demons and things appear for some reason. Not things that actually kill people, just, as I like to call them, minor inconvenience demons.
Like rodents of unusual size.
Yeah, sort of, except they roll up one of your pants and then fold it back to make it look normal, so you have to unroll your pant leg. It just makes it real inconvenient for a moment. Or they tie your shoes together, or yeah, just very inconvenient things. Or like if you're heating a kettle, they move it to where only one side of the kettle heats and it takes twice as long. Or yeah, that kind of thing. They're just little impy boys, and they're just inconvenient. They don't have any truly devious things. But Antla is like plagued by them. It's actually quite hilarious, because you can see them, but nobody does anything about it, because if you kill a demon, it's like, oh, we don't want any more demons here. Yeah, so you just have to sort of leave it and deal with it. I call it the land of minor inconvenience.
I think we attract enough of our own minor inconvenience among the four of us. I'd vote to skip that one.
I'm not looking for any more trouble than we need. And we should
I'm
plan.
looking for trouble. I don't mess with imps.
I think we should plan on traveling straight through to Helsinki unless something comes up that would require us not to.
Duly noted.
From the sound of these inconvenience demons, it seems very likely something would come up that would require us to stop.
Oh, it could be. Or it could not. We could just get lucky. I mean, if you're fast enough, usually they can't catch you, so...
I see.
No, well, you don't understand. So these specific versions of inconvenience demons are very slow. They have no legs, and they only have little wings that are like little butterfly wings. So they sort of like do this motion, where
I see.
they float around. So unless you get hit in the face by one, you're less likely to be inconvenienced. And it's just gonna be inconvenient. It's gonna be like, oh no, my horse threw a shoe, or oh no, it's a bit muddy here for some reason. I don't think that would be inconvenience that much, unless for some reason we're as unlucky as Loershik and we get like loads of them at once. Probably won't be anything more than minor. So I would vote that Loershik should go first, so that we can head it off at the pass, or so to say.
It is an intriguing idea to use him as a trap or a bait to trap the inconvenience demons.
That would be actually quite the experiment, though. Maybe on the way back. What do you think? What do you think, Loershik?
I just shake my head and under my breath say, always picking on the reptiles.
Well, I hope you understand it's all in for the purposes of endearment. I hope you know that, Loershik. That there's
science.
Well, that too. But there's no foul play here. I have no ill intent towards you.
Breathe heavily out of my nostrils.
Oh, you practicing and becoming a dragon? Is that your dream?
I pretend to like breathe fire on him.
Oh, that's hot. Hold on, let me polish my fingernails. And you guys are able to get right to Antla and move right through it. And he explained that they were minor inconvenience demons. And as you were passing through, it took you about a minute to pass through. Some of the funniest things you have ever seen happen in that time period. There was a guy, so specifically you passed through in the late evening. There was a guy that had a piece of bread like toast with butter on it. And he goes to bite it, and one of the demons jumps up and punches it out of his hand. And it still lands on the ground, butter side up. Not butter side down. It still lands butter side up. So it's still edible, but it's just inconvenient. It's that kind of thing that happens.
I feel like that's more cruel than just losing it, because then you have to go through the debate of, is that too dirty? I'm hungry. I'm gonna eat the dirt anyway, I guess.
Yvonne points it out. He says that's why it's a minor inconvenience. Because it's like, I might as well just get a new piece of bread anyway. It's a debate of, is it more effort to eat a new one than it is to get... And who knows if that guy's going to do it again. He's still sitting there. And it's sort of hilarious stuff like that. That's just so funny. And you guys are able to pass through uneventfully. Luckily, the fates are not looking upon Loershik any worse than they have already. And it gets relatively cold at night. It's not too bad. Not as bad as the pass between the two cities in the crag. But you're able to move on, and you make it to Lysinki the next evening. And Lysinki is, again, another port town. The port is actually separate, and that river that's to the east of Lysinki is actually a man-made lock system. So to transport goods, they actually can transport boats into the river between Djursvalla and Lysinki, as well as go all the way to the capital with ships. And the river system to the east of Lysinki is actually a man-made lock system that lets them into the river from the ocean. And that being said, the river by Lysinki is huge. It's probably 800 or 900 feet wide, and probably 300 or 400 feet deep. So, that being said, the river crossings by Lysinki were the craziest things you've seen. It's a man-made bridge that crosses both of them. And then spending the night in Lysinki isn't actually too bad. It does smell a little bit like the ocean, but you were able to get a tavern there relatively simply. Yvonne works his magic because he's a charming man. And he looks, he comes to you guys, and he says, right before you go into the tavern, he says, okay, so we all need to agree here that we need rooms together, not together, but in the same vicinity. I'm just going to be real with you for a second. I have an ex-lover here that doesn't like me. And for some reason, she has something, some magic item. I don't know what she has, but she has something that she knows where I am. If she gets word that I am here, I might die. So, all I'm asking is that you have the ability to respond in case I scream. Okay? That's all.
If it will help, Defender and I can stand vigil over the doors.
No, because then she'll know something's up and she'll come through the window. So, she's very creepy like that. And, she is dead. Her new form is she's a banshee. Just be aware that she was my lover when she was alive, and now she's a spirit. So be aware.
So I am clear. Did you break up with her because she became a banshee?
No. I broke up with her because she's a huge bitch. She was trying to poison me. And it's a little complicated, but let's just say that she's a banshee because she thought that we had a death pact. And her malevolence kept her alive. And yes, so be aware that I'm going to be casting warding spells. But I just would request that you have my back in case she shows up. Okay? Is that okay with you guys?
Yes, that's what we are here for.
Okay. I thought you should know, and it's not going to be a surprise if you hear a very loud scream and then I die. So.
I appreciate your candor.
You seem
Candor?
completely fine
Candor?
with death, given we're here to protect you.
If you knew that your ex-lover died and then she became a banshee specifically to kill you, I don't have a choice but to accept it at this point.
I kind of get a little closer to Yvonne and say, it's okay, I have one of those too.
Oh. Really? That's very specific. And as he's like looking at you, he's like, do you have perfume on right now?
Evie kind of blushes, but doesn't engage any further in this.
It smells good. That's all I'm saying. That's it. That's my only thing, is I'm saying it smells good. I'm not. Don't make that. I don't want to be creepy.
I just don't want to end up a banshee and have to hunt you down and kill you. So.
I mean, the thrill of the hunt, though, right? He winks at you.
Plot thickens.
Is that what we're calling it now? And with that, I need all of you to make a perception check. Well, no. Vidar, Loreshik, make a perception check at disadvantage. Everyone else is normal.
Just to be clear, you're making me roll at disadvantage.
You're the only one that has to sleep! You're the only one that physically has to sleep. Everyone else has a trance or a thing that they have. You're the only one that physically requires sleep. You know what? No. Reroll it at normal. because your skull has perception.
Okay.
Oh, I hate this. I hate that you roll so badly. I do. You want to know why I hate it so much? It's because I can't do anything about it. I cannot help you. I can't do anything to help you roll better. And it makes me feel bad.
I'm telling you, you really need to come to church. You need to reconnect with our Jesus.
We need to get him something to buff all of his rolls.
I know, just a stat booster. Just like straight up everything.
+1 to all.
Okay. You hear Technician and Evie. You both hear a very high-pitched scream in the middle of the night coming from the direction of Yvonne's room.
Technician immediately moves towards Yvonne's room.
What do you do, Evie?
Yeah, I'll spring out of bed, pretty much knowing with the foreshadowing what's about to happen.
Is someone kicking in the door? Or are you just going to open the door? What's your plan?
I'm just gonna open the door. Yeah, we're just gonna... Wait, his door or my door?
His
like,
door.
Am I...
I assume that you've already opened your own door. You're in the hallway.
I'd say at this point, just have Technician straight up barge right through, make a Technician-shaped hole in the door.
Technician busts in the door.
Yeah.
And Yvonne is in the corner of the room holding make a religion check if you'd like to figure out what type of religious symbol he's holding.
Mm-hmm.
Both of you recognize it as Jingle. The god named
That
Jingle.
was the god that I worshipped, by the way.
Yes, Jingle.
Okay.
You immediately recognize it as Jingle. And he's like facing it toward the window. And the window has this female ogre shape to it. There is clearly a spirit outside the window, but it is a female ogre. So it's huge.
Is this the X?
You can assume that much, yes.
Oh boy.
Rep looks at the window. Hello.
And it
Not
sort
now,
it sort of goes and looks at you, and immediately you feel a sense of dread wash over you. You don't feel emotions normally. But this thing looks at you and you go, I'm going to die if I maintain eye contact with this being.
Okay.
And Evie, you immediately recognize the face of, you son of a bitch, I'm going to kill you.
What is Yvonne doing at the moment?
He is cowering in the corner with his holy symbol going like this. Just like...
And she's gonna attack. She's attacking.
No. She's just chilling outside the window. In a...
Being
Someone's
intimidating.
playing the flute and the violin and the birds chirping, right? Just
Yeah,
right there.
yeah.
Alright, cool.
Why do you have to break my immersion like that? Hold on, I got...
You're asleep. This is what sleeping sounds like for you. It's
Here we go.
very peaceful. I wish I could sleep that peacefully.
And she's just staring.
Okay. Well, I'm definitely concerned, but since she's not attacking, I kind of turn to Yvonne and ask, have you been hunted by her before? Like, is this a first step, or is she just gonna sit out there the whole time?
Well... And his voice is 2 octaves higher than it is normally. So he says, well, this is the first time I've seen her post-mortem.
Are you okay?
No, I think I've strained my voice.
Rep Rap is going to look for shutters or blinds or drapes or anything.
There are shutters and drapes.
Okay. You're going to go close the shutters and the drapes.
So you close the drapes and the shutters, and Yvonne looks at you and says, "Well, that was eventful. I am going to go. It's a weird question, but can I sleep I can sleep on the floor in one of your rooms, and I don't want it to be weird, but And he looks like he has not slept. Has not slept at all. He's been up the whole time, and he's very upset. He's not happy. He's like, I mean, for the Warforged, I could just sleep on the bed because you don't sleep, or whatever.
Indeed.
Whatever you feel.
Indeed.
And he looks like he's actively passing out right now. Like, he looks like he's about to pass the fuck out.
You may sleep in my room.
Yeah, I'm a little put off by that behavior, so I usher him towards Technician's room so he can sleep on the bed.
And just for safety, Technician is also going to close the shutters and the drapes in that room as well.
And you guys awaken the next, you guys get back to your rooms, you awaken the next morning, and surprisingly, Yvonne wakes up and looks to be in perfect form. Like, he goes, he gets up, and Technician, this is the first time you've ever seen this happen, but he just takes his hands and he brushes his hair with his hands, and it literally straightens his hair because he has long hair that he usually keeps in either a ponytail or like a couple like pigtails, or he braids it really close or whatever. All he does is take his hands, he runs his hands through his hair, and it makes it perfectly straight. And then he goes with his hands and goes like this, and a hair tie appears on it. And then he does the same thing with his face. He touches his face, and like all of his blemishes and the dirt and stuff just disappear as he touches his face.
Is he magical?
Now we can go back to the forest day. Make Ryan happy. Oh, what do you do?
Well, he's in my room.
He says,
Yeah,
Good morning, Technician. How was your evening?
Good morning. My evening was uneventful.
Oh, it's better than mine. Oh, at least my voice is back to normal. I appreciate that.
May I inquire, what is the magic that you use?
Oh, it's just and he shows you. He has a ring that covers the inside of his two fingers that has a tiny little bit of temper in between his fingers. And he has one on both hands. And, for example, he takes you by the hand. He says, may I?
Yes.
And one of your hands has like a bunch of dirt on it and like stuff from putting the temper onto Captain Saltai's ship. And he runs his fingers over it. It removes all of the dirt, the scuff marks. It polishes your hand. This is the ring of restoration. It literally fixes imperfections in whatever you're touching with it.
Fascinating. It seems like a very rudimentary version of my repairs.
It is, actually. It's very reminiscent of your very complicated systems, I assume, that you have. So that's
Indeed.
what keeps me in... He looks back and then looks back at you with like this smoldering look. He raises an eyebrow. He says, keeps me in perfect form.
I will confess, I was curious how you always look so put together and we're always the first one up every morning.
Because that is... appearance is everything, my friend. And he literally puts his hand over his body, and his clothes appear on top of him in like perfect form and everything.
Rep is going to attempt to just mimic the hand movement there. Where appearance.
Appearance. And his clothes change appearance again.
Fascinating. All right.
And he literally kicks open he pulls open the door real loud. He says, "Well, to Talaka!" And he runs down the stairs.
He's a man-child. A smoldering man-child.
As soon as I see the others, I'm going to say, it does occur to me that we will have to deal with that banshee again when we come back to Lysinki to use the port to leave.
I have a plan this time. I know a man in Talaka that has holy water. And I will throw it on her stupid bitch-ass face. And we'll get rid of her once and for all.
Have you tried talking to her?
No, because she's a bitch.
I understand how you feel, but communication is the cornerstone of all relationships.
I never wanted a relationship with her to begin with. And I still don't.
This sounds like a fascinating story that you can tell me on the road to Talaha.
I don't want to do that, because it's not as exciting as you believe it is.
But I am fascinated.
She's a big lady, and I was very intrigued. I took my chance. It worked. She got hooked, as you might say. And then I left her, and then she died. And here I am.
You were correct.
That's it. It's a little bit more complicated than that.
It was not as intriguing of a story as I thought it would be.
Yes, it's very straightforward. I did some things that I now regret, and she died, and here we are. So, holy water! That is the objective for going to Talaka for me personally.
To Talaha. Ooh. from the Banshee encounter. Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah.
And Evie, I assume that you've heard all of this conversation.
Yeah, it's factoring into. I am still smitten by his appearance, but his strange man-child incident last night. He like has a front, obviously, of like big man, but he scared of his ogre ex and needs holy water.
Dead ogre ex. Not
dead ogre ex.
So banshees in Dungeons and Dragons are the only creature that can kill you straight out. You can actually die at level 20 against a banshee. So he has a genuine reason to be afraid of her. They have an ability that when they scream, you make a Constitution saving throw. If you fail, you're at 0 hit points.
That's fair. Okay, didn't know that.
So
thought she was just
banshees,
like a kind of annoying ogre ghost.
No, banshees are terrifying. Because if she wants him dead, he's dead, and there's nothing he can do about it. But
she didn't kill him in that moment.
She didn't kill him, so that says something about that relationship.
We'll revisit that bridge.
So yes, a little bit of D&D background for those of you who are uninitiated about banshees and how terrifying they are.
I gotcha. Okay, rightfully afraid then.
Yes. Also a little bit of a man-child. Let's be real. Okay. Yvonne sets up horses for you guys. He gets breakfast. Make sure you guys have breakfast in the morning at the Crimson, or not the Crimson. Wait, we're in Lysinki. This would be, hold up. Mossy Boulder Tavern. You guys have breakfast at the Mossy Boulder. Shortly after Yvonne goes and grabs horses, and you guys journey your way to Talaka. There are a few people that you meet on the road, most of them being, what are they called? Shipbuilders. They have a specific term for shipbuilding that I don't remember what they're called.
Boatsmith.
Boatsmith.
I think boatswain is the
Boatswain.
actual term?
It's boatswain.
Boatswain, yeah.
You meet a handful of people from a group of boatswains that they're on their way to Helsinki to create boats. And it takes, I think 2 days. Is it 1 or 2 days? I think it's 2 days to get to Talaka. But the roads here are extremely safe. They actually have, every half day, they have rest stops that you can stop, water your horses, as well as set up camp and things like that. They actually have like these walled structures that you can set up camps and things like that in, that are very interesting. And you reach the city of Talaka. Talaka is an enormous walled city that is set on top of a mesa that you have to take a gigantic freight elevator to get to. And this freight elevator is powered by these enormous chains. And at the very top of these chains, there are there's 2 pair of huge cow, or what is it called? I don't remember what cow, like the cows are called, but they are cow-like creatures that at their withers sit at 11 feet. So 11 feet at the shoulder. There are a pair of them on each of them, and they power the chains that power the elevator. Or is it the withers, the bottom of the belly? I don't remember. But at the shoulder, they're 11 feet tall. And there are 2 of them per chain, and the chains, them pulling the chains makes you go up onto this. And at the very top of this, there's a small hill that leads downward past the mesa. So some of the mesa has fallen, but trees have grown in that area as well. And directly in the center of this city, there's a huge cathedral dedicated to Gleam Light's Advent. And with that, I believe we're going to end this episode. Because we arrived at Talaka, and then we can go from Helsinki to Siltheim or to Artstadt, and then we will call it as we see it there. Yes, and we are talking oxen. They look like oxes, but they're sort of strangely malformed, almost as if their skin is made of stone in some aspects. Bovine. They are bovine in nature. That's what I meant to say. Yeah. So we're gonna end this episode there. I have a new cupcake emote coming. I got a super awesome idea from someone, and it's gonna be dope. And it should be here by hopefully Friday. I don't know yet. But come check us out for Steel Horizons tomorrow morning. I believe it's 9 a.m. Pacific is when we're starting tomorrow. If you want to come check that out. And then Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, we are going to be doing Seeds of Destruction episode 49. Yes, tomorrow is Steel Horizons, and then Seeds of Destruction is on Friday. So we have everybody. We're playing all of them this week. Come join the Discord. Come talk to us. Go subscribe to YouTube so you can watch these videos later if you want to, or show other people. If you want to support me on Patreon, that's appreciated too. I appreciate everyone that does that. And then we will see you tomorrow. Everyone have a wonderful day and do something positive for yourself. And we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.